The tropical sun began to rise over the horizon of Fantasy Island, casting a golden glow upon the lush greenery and the pristine white sand. Mr. Rourke stood on the balcony of the main house, his immaculate white suit contrasting against the vibrant colors of the island. He turned to his faithful assistant with a serene expression and said, "Good morning, Lawrence." Smiles, everyone, smiles. Lawrence, always meticulous and perhaps a bit weary of the unconventional requests they received, adjusted his tie and let out a small sigh. He looked at his employer and asked if they were to endure a weekend return to the mythical Old West. Mr. Rourke chuckled softly and shook his head, explaining that Mr. Billy Joe Prine of Baywood, Louisiana, was anything but mythical. He described him as a genuine country western singing star who currently had 4 recordings in the top 10 of the world. Lawrence, ever the lover of classical refinement, remarked that he was sure this list did not include Beethoven, Sibelius, or Stravinsky. He then inquired about the nature of Mr. Prine's fantasy. Mr. Rourke explained that the singer had left his home 10 years ago, determined not to return until he had achieved great success. However, he could now find no trace of his family or the girl he left behind. His fantasy was for Mr. Rourke to find them all and bring them to the island for a surprise reunion. As they watched the arrival of the next guests, Lawrence noted a woman who seemed to carry an aura of prestige. Mr. Rourke identified her as Miss Brianne Spencer, the famous fashion designer. Lawrence then pointed out the gentleman accompanying her, referring to him as Mr. Spencer. Mr. Rourke quickly corrected him, advising him to be careful because the man was her husband, Mr. Fred Nelson. He explained that Fred was the master of ceremonies for the fashion shows but was rather sensitive about being called Mr. Spencer. They were here for a dual fantasy. Brianne wanted her husband to be as successful in the entertainment business as she was in fashion, while Fred merely wished to recapture the love they shared when they were first married. Mr. Rourke noted with a touch of sadness that it was obviously a relationship in deep trouble. When the plane landed and the guests gathered, Mr. Rourke stepped forward to greet them with his characteristic grace. "My dear guests, I am Mr. Rourke, your host," he announced. "Welcome to Fantasy Island." Later that day, Mr. Rourke spoke privately with Billy Joe Prine. The singer confessed that he had almost given up hope because his father had sold the farm and vanished with his younger brother, Junior. Mr. Rourke asked if he knew that his mother had passed away. Billy Joe looked down in shame, admitting he had not stayed in touch. He expressed deep regret that he only learned of it upon seeing her grave. He explained that his father wanted him to stay on the farm, and after a harsh argument when he left, it became a matter of pride. He had wanted to return in triumph, but now he realized how much he missed his family and Miss Katie McCallum, the girl who had promised to love him always. Mr. Rourke informed him that all 3 had been found and were on the island, believing they were here as winners of a random vacation contest. He cautioned Billy Joe that 10 years was a long time and that life goes on, but Billy Joe remained hopeful, believing that nobody could stay mad for that long. Meanwhile, on the other side of the resort, Brianne Spencer was overseeing the preparations for her upcoming fashion show. The atmosphere was filled with glitter and flair. She predicted an even more dazzling future for Spencer Fashions. Fred Nelson stood by her side, but the tension between them was palpable. When Mr. Rourke approached them, Fred made a sarcastic remark about his name being Nelson, not Spencer. Mr. Rourke complimented them on how far they had come from starry-eyed newlyweds to owners of a successful fashion house. Fred recalled their early days when they were starving while he worked in small clubs. He mentioned how Brianne's talent for making dresses was discovered by a boutique owner, leading to their current success. However, Fred's tone was bitter as he described himself as Mr. Spencer. Brianne was hurt by his resentment, explaining to Mr. Rourke that she had started the business so Fred would be free to build his own career in show business. She felt that he had given up his dreams to work for her exclusively and wanted him to be his own man again. Mr. Rourke told her that if that was truly what she wanted, she would have to fight for it as hard as she had fought for her business. Billy Joe finally gathered the courage to visit his father. He entered the cottage and greeted him warmly, but his father was cold and distant. "Why are you here?" his father asked bluntly. Billy Joe said he wanted to be family again and offered to buy the farm back with his new wealth. His father reacted with anger, asking if he could buy his mother back from the grave. He told Billy Joe that his mother never got over him leaving and that he and Junior had taken a back seat in her heart. Billy Joe apologized, explaining that he could not let them see him when he was struggling. His father finally softened slightly, agreeing to make a try at a reunion, and suggested they go find Junior and Katie. At the fashion rehearsal, the atmosphere was chaotic. Fred was trying to slow down the tempo of the show, but David, the director, wanted more flash and speed to dazzle the buyers. Fred insisted that the buyers needed to see every stitch, but the conflict over the creative direction was clear. Brianne arrived and told them to move faster, emphasizing glitz and energy. Lawrence was caught in the middle, attempting to help a model with her dress. Fred felt undermined by his wife's interference. When Brianne tried to talk to him about the evening cocktail party, Fred reminded her that he thought the afternoon was supposed to be for the two of them. She promised it would only take an hour, but Fred's frustration continued to grow. Out by the water, Billy Joe encountered his brother Junior. The reunion was far from happy. Junior was hostile, telling Billy Joe that they did not need anything he was selling and asking him to leave them alone. Billy Joe stood his ground, stating that he was not running anymore. He told his brother to put aside his pride for the sake of their mother's memory. It was then that Katie McCallum appeared. She had grown even more beautiful over the years. Billy Joe expressed his fear that she would be married with many children by now. Junior dropped a bombshell, revealing that Katie was indeed married. She had taken off her ring to go swimming, but she was married to Junior. Back at the resort, Fred and Brianne sat together, reminiscing about the early years of their marriage. Fred admitted he was a disappointment, but Brianne insisted she only wanted him to do more. Fred finally decided to raise the white flag and surrender, promising to take another shot at making it on his own. He told her he would leave that afternoon. Brianne panicked, realizing that the timing was terrible with the fashion show and press interviews coming up. She asked him to wait until after the shows in New York and Paris. Fred realized that despite her words, she still viewed him as her stooge and knew which side his bread was buttered on. Billy Joe found Katie alone later that day. They talked about the unanswered questions between them. Katie blamed him for not coming back to get her as he had promised. Billy Joe explained that he had to prove himself first, but Katie argued that his fame had nothing to do with their love. She confessed that Junior was not the lover he was. Billy Joe told her she was the only woman he ever loved. He sang a song for her about going home and the loneliness of the city. The lyrics were filled with a longing for a place where he truly belonged. Brianne sought out Mr. Rourke, admitting she had been a hypocrite. She realized she wanted Fred to have courage, but the thought of him actually leaving her was terrifying. She confessed that she loved him very much and did not want to lose him. Mr. Rourke pointed out that having him at her beck and call was comfortable, but holding on too tightly might cause her to lose him anyway. Meanwhile, Fred was at the bar, feeling low. A model named Alice tried to flirt with him, calling him a cute hustler. This only deepened Fred's resentment toward men who lived off rich women. When David tried to give him orders, Fred snapped, declaring that from now on, anyone could call him Mr. Spencer, except for David. Billy Joe's father called him in to show him something important. He produced his mother's scrapbook, filled with pictures and clippings of Billy Joe's career. But the last pages contained something shocking. It was all the money Billy Joe had sent over the years, every last dollar of it. His father explained that they were not for sale and that the money could not replace the letters and birthday cards he never sent. He told Billy Joe that being sorry was not enough and that he must not see Katie again or cause any more grief for the family. He urged him to make peace with his brother. Fred shared a story with Mr. Rourke about his early days in college when he did comedy juggling acts that only Brianne liked. He felt that nobody wanted a funny juggler then, and nobody wanted one now. He was ready to give up. Later, Brianne found Fred after he had been out all night. She was relieved he was safe but felt a pang of jealousy when she saw him being cared for by another woman. Fred asked if he was fired. In a quiet moment, Junior and Billy Joe shared a drink of Tennessee sour mash. They remembered old times, including the dances where Billy Joe would get into fights to protect Junior. Billy Joe told his brother he was leaving that night, believing it was a mistake to bring them all together. Junior revealed that their father had spent years praying for Billy Joe to walk through the door and that his pride was the only thing standing in the way. Katie arrived, and Billy Joe said his goodbyes, claiming business called him away. He asked Junior to say goodbye for him, but Katie insisted on a final kiss. Junior watched with a heavy heart as his brother prepared to leave. The fashion show began under the title Scintillation. The collection was dazzling, featuring turquoise, sunburst pink, and exotic beads. However, David's emceeing was dull and lacked sparkle. Brianne realized the show was turning into a disaster without Fred. Mr. Rourke and Lawrence observed the fading energy of the audience. Mr. Rourke spoke to the Nelsons, explaining that success was about understanding each other's value and that the business could not exist without both of them working together. Brianne finally understood and told Fred she loved him. Fred took the stage and completely transformed the atmosphere. He was charismatic, funny, and creative, selling the gowns with passion and wit. He described the black shimmering satin and the multicolored butterfly dress with such flair that the buyers were enchanted. Brianne watched him, realizing he was the best salesman the company would ever have. After the show's triumph, Brianne and Fred thanked Mr. Rourke. They announced that the business would now be known as the Fashions of Spencer and Nelson. Mr. Rourke was pleased, noting that as long as they remained a part of each other, their marriage would remain strong. As the guests prepared to depart, the Prine family gathered together. Billy Joe decided to stay and mend the fences with his father and brother. Katie had left early that morning, and Billy Joe accepted that she was a part of his past. His father looked at him and promised they would get things done together. Billy Joe thanked Mr. Rourke and promised to send him a copy of his new album. As the boat pulled away from the dock, Lawrence watched the guests leave with a smile. He commented that the name Spencer and Nelson had a nice ring to it. Mr. Rourke agreed. Lawrence then admitted he was surprised to learn that Mr. Rourke was a fan of country western music. Mr. Rourke smiled enigmatically as the sun set over the island, marking the end of another weekend where fantasies had been fulfilled in unexpected and human ways. The island returned to its peaceful state, the echoes of music and laughter still lingering in the warm tropical air.